In order to pay off her father's massive debt, she was forced to make a deal with a nobleman. If she can bear the nobleman's child in 3 days, then after the child is born, she would be paid a considerable sum of money, but only if the whole process is kept secret, and all contact with the child must be severed immediately after the birth. The first day of the appointment arrived, and finally met the nobleman, but it wasn't quite what she expected. Charlie was not arrogant, he was a gentleman, still, and couldn't hide her fear. She hoped that this absurd transaction would soon be over. For the first night, the two of them were numb, and didn't talk much. They just did what they couldn't refuse to do. Early the next morning, Charlie came to Annie. He told her about his pain. It turned out that 3 years ago his wife had fallen off a horse and become a vegetable. Even so, he wanted to be with her for the rest of his life, but as the only son of a nobleman, he had to take over the family business, and his father forced him to produce a successor. That's what forced them to make this deal.
Then, sir, since neither of us are here for our own pleasure, perhaps what we do isn't so very wrong.
From this point on, Annie seemed to have a soft spot for the man in front of her. The next night, Annie's feelings for Charlie changed subtly. Although the relationship was one of employment, but Charlie had touched a soft spot in Annie's heart. Charlie knew in his heart that he couldn't give this woman everything she wanted. Early the next morning, Annie was alone on the beach. Charlie soon followed. This was a welcome relief from Annie's despondency. Charlie suggested that she shout out to the sea to let off steam, but Annie was shy. For a moment, they looked like a couple, but they had to keep their distance, and for one night, they seemed to have forgotten their deal. Their hearts were drawn closer together by their inner feelings, but soon this love was shattered by the cold reality. The 3 days were over. Annie was put on a boat early in the morning. Charlie's heartless departure doused the warmth that had flared up in her heart. 10 months passed quickly. Annie gave birth to a baby girl, but before she could even look at her daughter, she was taken away from her in tears. She told herself it was her destiny. Since this day, she never stopped thinking about her daughter. She decided to look for her daughter.